13 speeds. Yep, SRAM has just launched the new SRAM Red Explore Axis with a 13-speed rear cassette. I'm here with Jake, and we're going to try and talk through this. We've gone through the instructions and the various press releases, and we've got a bit of experience now with the current SRAM Red 2x setup, and I'm sort of sighing in my voice because I'm like, 13 speed, everything's so good apart from 13 speed, what the hell? Oh, Jake, before we get started, we have to remember that this now goes out on audio on Spotify, Amazon and Apple, so we need to make sure we describe things.
Yes, hello audio listeners.
Yeah, so, okay, my first reactions were a bit like, oh, really? What were your first reactions?
Well, my first reaction was, this is obviously a very high-end group set, it's £3,500.
We were expecting that.
It works out about £270 a speed.
Woo!
So that's, good value. But yeah, I think first impressions are everything looks really, really good. But I'm just not sure why they made it 13 speed other than to sell more cassettes.
We don't have a great experience of 13 speed. So the Rotor do a hydraulic one, I think, don't they? I've only seen that once.
I don't think I've seen it in the shop yet.
I've only seen it at trade shows.
Yeah.
And the guys there who were like, that doesn't work very well. And these, Campagnola Ekar.
Oh, the world's worst group set.
It is the world's worst
You've actually ridden it, haven't you? And it's just the creakiest, most
times,
horrible, just awful thing. Please.
And the pleasure of working on it a few times.
If you're watching, listening, anything, if you're within the same postcode, please never ever buy an e-car group set.
But, SRAM have put their foot in the door. They've gone, okay, we think we can do 13 speed. I'm like, okay. Now, okay, we all know the idea is that you haven't, normally when you upgrade a new speed or you introduce a new speed, we went from 11 speed to 12 or 10 to 11, etc. You normally gain something.
Yeah.
You gain a range, normally. You don't gain any more range with this.
Well, a tiny bit. 10 to 46.
10 to 40, we don't know. We're on 10 to 51 cassettes and stuff now.
Very
and
true.
10 to 46 has been on mountain bikes for a long time. We could run a mullet setup on this. What we get is one extra gear.
Yeah, so I mean, I had a read through because I was wondering, all the marketing and everyone's sort of initial releases are saying the reason that they've made it 13 speed is to smooth out the gaps between the cassettes. You get not as in a wider range of gears, but a smoother transition between them all. But I read through the little breakdown you get of all the cog sizes, and the additional tooth that they have added is a 12.
And this is a facepalm moment.
Yeah.
A 12.
So you go, instead of having a 10, 11, 13 as your three hardest gears, you now have 10, 11, 12, 13. And all the rest of the jumps are identical to what they were on 12 speed, with actually now a bigger jump between the sort of second to last and highest gear. Because that's now a 38 to a 46 rather than a 38 to 44.
Yep, I could have probably walked my brain around a 17, 18, 19 or a 30 something to fill that gap, but like a 12, what use is that?
I mean, the best use for me for a 13th speed would have been to have the same range on as an XPLR cassette, but then put a 50 on the end of it. So you have effectively a mountain bike group set with the same jumps you get from an XPLR cassette.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff like that which doesn't make any sense to me. And the idea is that it smooths out. You can always find the ideal cadence. That's what's in their marketing. Well, if we keep going down that route, we're just into constant velocity gearboxes.
Yeah.
How far do we stop? I think anyone that's ridden a 1x will know that you just adjust the leg speed. Like I can ride the box components 1x9 works perfectly. I've got no problems. I just change my leg speed.
And a beautifully robust group set as well.
Yeah. So some highlights on this. I am at least happy that I've kept the same 12-speed chain.
Yeah.
So that's like, phew, thank God for that. It is compatible with current 12-speed chain rings.
Yep.
That's good. So the only thing that's not compatible is the cassette and the derailleur.
I did have a wondering question when they said that it was still going to be with a 12-speed chain. That to me then says that the cogs are the same size. They're not any thinner or smaller.
And the gaps between them would be, yeah.
Yeah. So where does then the 13th tooth go?
They must have squeezed, I reckon, in that gap between the cassette and the spokes somewhere.
Yeah.
They've changed the spider again and managed to find a gap. So that must be those cogs must be getting very, very close to spokes now.
But as we do know, one of the big selling points is this is UDH.
Yes.
And you won't, in theory, have a bent hanger as a danger for.
I think that's the only way they could do it. I think the only way they could get the accuracy for 13 speed is to make sure they bolt the thing directly to the freaking frame.
And I would like to say as well to everyone watching, I did in fact predict that SRAM Red was going to be UDH.
Yes, but you predicted this would be.
Yeah, but that's besides the point. That's besides the point.
And it wasn't. So,
but I think it's a good move for SRAM because it brings it all in line with their top end mountain bike stuff.
It's a good move for the entire industry. If UDH is now in gravel, it can't be that far away from road. Come on, guys, you can do it.
They actually have on the SRAM website a little breakdown of all the bikes that have, all the road bikes that have UDH. I presume they have the same for mountain bikes as well.
Yeah. The mountain bike collection is quite big. In fact, when they launched the T-Type for mountain bikes, there was actually quite a lot of bikes already fitted with SRAM UDH.
Yeah, there's not a massive amount of gravel bikes with it. Specialized have specially redone the S-Works Crux to be UDH. I believe it is only the S-Works for now, but I imagine next year's models and stuff will be updated. There's the Cervelo gravel bike. There's the Canyon, which is obviously where we all saw it getting tested by Valtteri Bottas.
Yep. Come back to that in a second.
Yeah,
Good
and I think the BMC as well, and then there's a lot of other sort of smaller brands like Rose and stuff like that. But the interesting one for me was the new Trek Madone.
Yes, interesting. That is very interesting because we have seen one by setups run at Le Tour de France. We have seen that, and so this is an interesting idea. I quite like running the one by on my endurance bike. I just think it works. I don't really miss the big high speed gears, and I just quite like the simplicity of it when you're in tired brain mode of just
just pressing one button.
Pressing one button works great. I really like it. Not for everybody, but I like it, so I can see that appealing not just to gravel. I mean, all the marketing I'm looking at here is all gravel. But I think there's some applications here in endurance road, all road as well.
Yeah.
So, I think I actually like a lot of this release. The 13 side park it. If they'd gone to stepped at 12 speed, I would have been like really, really happy. So the UDH, massive positivity. Yeah. We know the T-Type Works has got a great reputation in mountain biking. Yeah. Bringing that to gravel and road, brilliant. The interesting thing, the one I do think, is the chainrings.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's because one of the gripes we've got with the current stuff is that if you want to replace your chainrings with a power meter, you have to replace the entire power meter. It looks like they found an engineering solution around this.
Yes.
And that is that the power meter looks like it's bolted on with the standard 8 bolt.
Yeah.
And then the chainrings thread, so it's like a massive, like, I don't know, what's that, like 90 millimeter thread or something. Interesting way of doing it, I think.
Have you seen the specific tool that they have to remove this? I believe this is a feature on T-Type as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's something they've carried over. But yeah, when I read through the manual, because I thought originally, I was like, why have they put another proprietary thing on the bike for and you need a tool? But it is only on the power meter, and it solves a big issue that both of us have had with SRAM, where you no longer have to replace the power meter and the chainring at the same time, which I think is a great move.
Yeah, I mean, there's some dangers there. I think if you have the right tool and you do it properly, I don't think there's any problems. I think the problems will come if you try and bodge it.
Yeah, with like a ancient cassette whip
with a chain whip or something, because it is actually quite specific. If you don't know, if you're listening to this, it looks a bit like a chain whip. It's got a long length of chain with a section on the end with a thread, and the idea is that you put a thread through the pedal axle. Yeah. So you take the pedal out, you put this big bar through the pedal hole, and then you thread it on, then you wind. And you wind the chain rings off, essentially. Perfectly clever. Yeah. And it's the reinstallation is you thread it on carefully, and then there's a little lock-in knob thing. And it does say don't over tighten it, so it's not something that's going to get tightened as you pedal. Okay.
So hopefully it won't be like a DT Swiss lock ring where it just gets infinitely tight and then you remove all of your fingers when you try to take it off. I think
it will get tight, obviously, because to requiring a tool like that. But I really hope this is something that people will go to bike shops, or they've made that tool reasonably priced so that home mechanics can do it.
I think it's
themselves.
about 50 quid.
Yeah, that's a reasonably priced tool for that, maybe. And then we might not see catastrophes.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Expensive power meters with cross-threaded chain rings, but So I think, are we a fan? What do we think?
I think I am a fan. I think it's not for everyone. It's a very, very high-end group set, but I think it. I mean, obviously the proof's going to be in the pudding when you get your hands on it. But I think for someone as big as SRAM, I think they're going to have to have made it good. They can't. I think with all of the all the previous reds, they have been a step up from what it was before, and so I do think it is going to be good.
I'm sitting thinking, talking to customers about their custom builds. I'm torn between one. I love the SRAM red levers. I think they're brilliant. They're so suited to gravel. Love the chainrings. Brilliant. It comes to the rear cassette, and I still think I would have the discussion with the customer and say, look, you can get a 12-speed mountain bike Eagle cassette and a SRAM XX1.
Yeah. For probably quite a lot less money as
for
well.
A little bit less money, and it also gives you the option of going to a 1051 if you want to.
Yeah.
Which, if you are going to do any sort of touring, put some bike packing gear on.
Even just normal gravel riding, especially like round here. You could really do with a 52 cassette, couldn't you?
1046 doesn't really cut it. The 1051 is still going to be the choice around here for a one by. So I'm like, so disappointed. But I like the fact that it's red branded, because you want all your stuff to match, don't you? You don't. It's a bit weird mixing mountain biking and road group sets. I still think that would be the way forward. I still think the mullet setup is the better solution. Yeah.
I mean, the other things we saw as well in the press release were new zip wheels.
Ah, yes.
And a new set.
They're wide.
Very, very wide.
Really wide.
A 32 millimeter internal, which is that's wider than the majority of downhill wheels. And it's insane, isn't it? It's absolutely insane. But I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of, like, Dylan Johnson, for example, is probably going to be pretty happy about these.
I imagine he's doing a podcast right now. They're super excited about that.
With his backwards hat on and all that good stuff.
Yeah, aerodynamic, deep section, 30 millimeter wide. It's all Dylan Johnson's all over that. Absolutely. Why not? It's a bit of a shame that they're doubling down on the hookless thing. Yeah. It's I reckon the brands are in a bit of a double bind there. Do they double down on hookless or back down and go hooked again?
It's a tricky one. I mean, I think for off-road use, I think it's perfectly functional, because, I mean, especially with a 35 mil internal, a 32 mil, internal rim width and a 45, 50 mil tyre. I mean, you're not going to be running that over 30 psi anyway, are you?
No.
So, no. I don't see really any problems with it. I mean, I think the problem is the perception, isn't it? And I think you can beat this subject to death.
Yeah, I think mountain bikers who do gravel will have absolutely no problem with it at all. Road bikers that do gravel will be like, oh. So, yeah, I think at that sort of width, it's pointless argument, isn't it? Hookless is absolutely fine. So, yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on. The gravel is definitely like getting a lot of attention right now.
Yeah. So, now, another question is, Shimano they've just released their 12-speed GRX. Do you think they're going to be a little bit upset that they're a speed down, or do you not think it matters?
No, I don't think Shimano have always been behind SRAM for a long time now. It's something that's part of the cycle that we see. SRAM are always the ones that innovate first. We talked about this when they launched this, SRAM Red, and Shimano are now known as the brand that sits back, looks through all the little engineering nuances that SRAM might have cocked up, tried to fix them, and then bring out something a lot more solid at normally a much cheaper price point. So I think they'll be looking at it going, okay, let's see how this pans out. How does that thread fit thing work? Is 13 speed really what people want? And and
then I think probably my last question for the podcast: will we see a 13-speed SRAM mountain bike group set anytime soon?
Oh, do you know what that was probably the biggest thing that I'm disappointed about, because now you've broken the seal, so to speak. You've gone, okay, you can see how this is going now, can't you? This is going to be SRAM XX1 is going to go to 13 speed, then it'll be SRAM XO, and then it'll be SRAM GX, and it's like, oh god, here we go. And I think it's the wrong time. I think the industry is at a point now where we need to start pulling back on the SKU count. We need to start thinking about more compatibility and reducing how much stock is held in local bike shops and online dealers. I mean, especially increasing it.
Yeah, especially we see SRAM, they can't keep anything in stock for love nor money, can they?
No, you can't even keep a bottom bracket in stock, SRAM, or a brake hose.
No.
What chance have you got of keeping a 13-speed cassette in stock?
Yeah, especially, I don't know, it is £600 though, so every one they do keep in stock will be a fair bit of money, won't it? So
Jesus, oh my God, this industry sometimes.
Yeah.
Quickly though, we said we're going to come back to Valtteri Bottas.
Oh yes.
Perfect product tester.
I agree.
I want to see more of that.
I love his moustache, first and foremost.
Oh yeah, it's an essential part of being like a product tester, isn't it, to have a moustache? But F1 drivers, they're fit, really fit. They ride their bikes a lot, and they know a bit about engineering and racing, I'd say. And because he's a bit retired, he's got a bit of age.
No, he's not retired. He's still racing.
He's retired.
No, he's not. He still drives in Formula One.
Just
every single. No, he's getting a contract extension.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, I
know he's still there, but he's in like a back of the grid team now, isn't he?
Yeah, that is true.
Sharing his engineering knowledge with a new team.
And I think
it's the next step to retirement.
Yeah, but as well, I think as a Formula One driver, he knows how to break things. And I think that's probably the perfect person.
He knows how to break things, and he knows how to feed back to engineers how it
very well. Yeah,
I think actually a perfect product tester.
Yeah,
probably more so than a young 20-year-old fit racer
who just probably complain every time there's a micro skip in the gears and you're riding it off road.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I think that's great. I'd love to see more of that.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. I think I'm done.
Yeah, I've not got any more.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it. Remember, this is going out on an audio podcast on those 3 channels that I talked about earlier, and also a video podcast, which you'll find on Spotify and on our YouTube channel. If you like this sort of content, please think about subscribing on any one of those channels. It's all good. And we'll see you on the main channel for much more in-depth, more edited, high-quality content. All right, till next time. See you later. Cheers, Jake.